today we're just going to kind of show you everybody how to do the mound. What's really important with the mound, in between games especially, is, as you can see, that's all loose right there. That needs to come out. All of that dirt needs to come out. And then, if you can, right there are the bricks. So clean it out to the bricks. That's on your push foot. On your plant foot, as you can see, that's loose there too. It should be nice and solid. You shouldn't be able to pull the dirt out. So, you clean that out down to the bricks again. Just like that. And it takes just a little bit of water, not much. And then we have to pack that back in. So you mix the dry with the wet until it looks about halfway between wet and dry. See that difference? And then we just take a little bit at a time and we have to pack it in. And it's always a little bit at a time. If we try to fill the whole hole at one time, it won't adhere to the bricks, and it'll get loose and make a big hole right at the beginning of the game. So, pretty simple there. Second phase of the mound would be where the plant foot goes down. This is really important. We put a little bit of water in there, and we'll add some here in a second. But what's really important here is that's where that front foot goes down. If we just fill it full of water and rake over the top of it, that's like putting two pieces of ice together, and that clay will just slide over the top of the other clay, and that's where a kid will get hurt. So this is the most important part right here. So we'll add a little bit of water. And see, that's not very much water. And then again, we mix the dry with the wet, and we slowly build it back up. All right, now we're on the home plate in the batter's box. This is the right-hander's batter's box, of course. And typically it gets more abused than the left, and it's the same process. You can't have loose dirt in there. We have to get that all dug out. And then when we go to the catcher's box, typically it's the same process. And we do have bricks down here too. But again, we just dig out the hole real quick, get a little bit of water on there real quick. And then we do the same process as the mound. Get a little bit wet, mix up the dry dirt with the wet dirt, pack it in thin layers, and we should be done with the mound, or the home plate at that point. As you can see, just to put a little bit of water on there. One of the things about clay is that when it starts to clump up, these bigger clumps here, if you keep raking it and raking it, those will break up. A good example would be out here on front, where the sprinklers got it really wet, and we get those big wet clumps of clay. What we have to do is keep mixing in with the dry dirt and just keep raking it back and forth and back and forth. And eventually it will break up all the big clods and turn out smooth, just like that. Once you think you have it all prepared, if you rake over it with the big rake and it comes out smooth, you're good to go. If you do that here, You can see where there's a divot right below the rake. So we need to put more material in there. Third item on the list would be the base paths. Base paths need to be raked in the direction that the kids run back and forth. We don't want to go side to side. If you go side to side, then we build this edge up just like that, and that's not good because then the baseball will not work properly for the bunts. So we're always in the direction that the base runner runs. We have a couple of brooms over there that are specifically made just to drag down the base paths to take out all the foot traffic in between games. But after the game, we need to rake it in so we can compact it again. Those pads that we use to in between games are not heavy enough to take care of the issue. Once we get done with the base paths, we go down to first base and we rake the corners that can't get, after the field has been drug, the corners that are not drug, those need to be hand raked also. Okay, at this point we're going to assume that the field's been drug, and if we kind of pan across here, we'll just see that the field looks nice, the infield. And the secret, when we drag the infield, all the bases need to be removed, the plugs put in, and then we can drag the entire field. Because as you can see, when we don't remove this base, there's a high spot here, a really low spot here. You can even see that the base isn't even seated against the ground at that point. So it's really important when we drag the field to remove the bases and drag it. And then of course when we drag the field, you can see that this area does not get caught by the drag because it's too tight to turn the corner, so we want to just make sure that we get that cleaned up and raked in. The other important item about dragging the field is there's different patterns that we use every single time. We don't run the same pattern every time. So we'll do a lengthways pattern. We'll just actually follow it like you were a base runner and run across over to second, over to third, and then do a loop and do it in reverse. The next time we'll do small tight circles from first base to third base. The third time we do small tight circles from third base to first base. And then the fourth time we'll do a figure eight pattern from first to second, and then a figure eight from second to third. And then the key is to go slow. If we go very fast without the gator and the drag, then we get a ripple effect. The drag starts to bounce and it piles up the material. So you need to go slow. We have plenty of time in between the games to get it done. So go slow with the drag. In between and after the game's final, like I said, we're going to use a rake at the final game on the infield, the base paths. But in between games, we take our pad, we just drag it up and down, and we stay away from the white line. Of course, in this case, we don't have the chalk line, but we can stay away. We can have the mat on the grass partially, which won't hurt anything. So we drag the whole infield, and then we drag along the edge of the infield because the gator with the drag doesn't get everything. So we just follow right down that line, just like that, all the way around. Both the inside of the infield and the outside of the infield, and the base paths. Pretty simple. Now we're going to learn how to chalk the field. This is pretty self-explanatory. The way that sets on home plate right there. Okay. Then what we'll do is we'll stand back and kind of eyeball. We want that inside line to make sure it's pretty much parallel with home plate pitcher's mound and second base. And once we determine that that's fairly straight, we'll just go ahead and mark it. Back of the batter's line in the front. And then we just flip it over. Go through the same process. Make sure it's lined up. A little bit crooked there. Straighten it out. Let's mark that again. At that point, we'll set up, chalk in the base path line. It's important to know that as we view from this angle, we'll set the stake right behind the point of the plate, right off the point. And then we'll run the chalk line and rerun it to the outside of first base. And we'll demonstrate this in a minute, but when I chalk it, the right hand side of the chalk line will be on the right hand side of the bag. So the chalk line actually goes over the top of the bag. That's the true foul line. Okay, once we get the line out to the outfield, we want to run it 10 or 12 feet past the infield dirt. And we'll just take that line and bounce it up and down a little bit until we get right to the right hand side of the bag. And then we put it to the outside of the foul line going to the outfield. And then when we run that chalk line, it'll be to the inside of the field. And we'll demonstrate that right now. Okay, now we're ready to chalk the field. Of course, we have to make sure that we have enough chalk in there. The controls on this is the first control is a 1-inch line. Second control is a 2-inch line, and that's typically what we do. When we distribute the chalk comes out at the center of the back wheel, and we don't pull the chalker backwards because it leaks when you pull it backwards. So everything has to go forward with this chalker. So we just start on the back line. As you can see, there's my spot. The wheels are over the center. Start the chalk. And at first, sometimes it doesn't come out perfectly, but start over. Run the center line to the next mark. Pick up the back wheels. Run your next line. Back wheels come up. And then at post here, we only run the chalk line to the foul line. We don't run the chalk line all the way across the front. We just run it to our chalk line. And then when we set up to run the foul line, here we'll demonstrate what it looks like on this side of the chalker. You see the wheel runs to the inside of our rope right here. And we just follow that line all the way down and run it right over the top of the bag, and we're good to go. Once the field has been chalked and the infield has been drug, the finishing touches are to go ahead and just clean up around home plate all the marks that we leave with the chalker. Any excess chalk like this we want to get rid of. There's a little issue right here with the chalk line. Doesn't look very good, so we'll correct that by just pulling some dirt over the top of it. And then again, we clean up any footprints and any marks that we have around home plate. And there you have it. That's Field Prep 101.